I'm not going to get into Biden naming Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary, like who Janet Yellen is. I'd rather talk to someone who's an expert. So I've reached out to Dave Dayen from the American Prospect, who has really, really done amazing work on not just coronavirus, but who the people is looking at. The American Prospect has looked at who Biden's potential cabinet officials are. He is now naming Janet Yellen as his Treasury Secretary. Janet Yellen was the Federal Reserve Chair. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know a lot about her, but from what I've read and heard, she's your traditional neoliberal thinker, so that's not good. But I will get into that more. But I want to get into, to me, the bigger point about Joe Biden naming Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary. And it goes to what happens when people with progressive inclinations, like Elizabeth Warren, who I do believe, when she entered the Senate in 2012, really was progressive at heart. Elizabeth Warren, we heard it from progressive activists. We heard it from progressive think tanks. We heard it from Sunrise. We heard it from Justice Democrats. We heard it from a whole lot of people lobbying for Elizabeth Warren to be Treasury Secretary. I said, I think Krista Ball said, I think anyone with a brain said, I said, I don't think Elizabeth Warren's going to get a parking pass to the White House under a Joe Biden administration, much less Treasury Secretary. And this whole, selling out Bernie Sanders in 2016, then in 2020 again, all because somebody told you, I think she said Lawrence Summers or somebody back in the day told her, you have more power inside the room than outside the room. So you got to get inside the room to even begin to fight for your progressive legislation. Well, the question is, how do you get inside that room? How do you get inside that room? And I think Elizabeth Warren wrongly believed that, and somebody, when I tweeted out, I tweeted this out, which I thought was kind of funny. E. Warren sold out Bernie Sanders twice in 4 years and hasn't even gotten a White House parking pass for it. I believe Elizabeth Warren truly believed that if I sit it out in 2016, if I sit it out in 2020, and in 2020, her sitting it out, meaning not endorsing Bernie Sanders, was even more damaging. Because I think there is reason to believe that if Elizabeth Warren would have dropped out after she came in, I believe, third place in the New Hampshire primary, I think Bernie Sanders would have had a even bigger blowout in the Nevada caucus. I think Bernie Sanders would have not lost South Carolina by almost 30 points. And more important, Joe Biden loses a few of those states that he won on Super Tuesday, because the margin of Joe Biden defeating Bernie Sanders in several of those states was Elizabeth Warren's vote percentage. So, devil's advocate, woke Warren women could say, Jordan, Warren didn't owe Bernie anything. To that, I agree. It's not specifically that Warren owed Bernie. It's that if Warren wants to describe herself as a progressive, then you owe the progressive movement, you owe progressive, potentially future progressive legislation, progressive change, you owe it to them to do every single thing you can to actually push over the top the remaining progressive candidate. But Warren truly believed that if she played ball, if she sat it out again, if she stayed in through Super Tuesday, which I don't think was an accident, she knew after New Hampshire she had no chance. She knew after Nevada she had no chance. She knew after South Carolina she was done. She stayed in, I believe, to block Bernie Sanders. The reason I can't get in her head, was it the snake emojis, which is completely petty and ridiculous? Was it the fact that, Bernie had the gall to fight against the smears that he had said, I don't think a woman could ever beat Trump? But by her staying in, by her leaking to the media that Bernie said these things, that you can't beat Trump, it essentially handed the Democratic nomination to Joe Biden and Obama and the things he did, which I'm actually about to get into in a little bit. So why is this important? I'm not just poking at Elizabeth Warren and looking backwards for the hell of it. I think it tells a lesson about progressive politicians and progressive activists that become politicians. Because I truly believe, if you look back, I think when she became senator, she actually was more along the lines of an AOC, a Rashida Tlaib, an Ilhan Omar, a Ro Khanna, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush. Not the same color, not the same experience, but true instincts, progressive instincts, not to play ball, so to speak. But I'm just a player in the game. But I think Washington corrupted her. And there's different levels of corruption. There's the, insider trading level corruption, using your roles in subcommittees or your roles as a congressman or a senator to have inside information and then buy stocks or dump your stocks. That's one level of corruption. And then there's just the corruption of the average Tuesday, which is, you know what? I'm going to be a player in the game. I'm going to sell out my principles to get ahead. And I think that's what she did, because she wrongly put aside the moral ramifications. She didn't understand how politics works. She had terrible political strategy. She believed that if she didn't endorse Bernie in 2016, she would have more power in a potential Hillary Clinton administration. And maybe Hillary Clinton would even appoint her to something. Can't prove a negative. Hillary Clinton didn't win. But I, again, think there was very little chance of Elizabeth Warren being appointed to anything. Why? Because Hillary Clinton and now Joe Biden aren't the ones that fundamentally make the decisions. We live in the United Corporations of America, folks. It's not Joe Biden. Yeah, Joe Biden's technically naming Anthony Blinken as Secretary of State. He's technically naming Janet Yellen as the Treasury Secretary. He's probably going to name Michelle Flournoy, woke imperialism, as Abby Martin told me, who is a defense contractor's dream as defense secretary. Looks like he's going to name that neoliberal corporatist hack Heidi Heitkamp as agricultural secretary. So, yes, technically Biden is picking these people, but he's picking these people within the system and the prism of his donors, because he knows what Wall Street and special interests and donors will be happy with, and what the line is, and where you can't cross that line. So, same thing. Why did Barack Obama choose not to appoint Elizabeth Warren to be the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, even though she created it? That should have been her first red flag signal. It don't matter how much ball I play. I'm never going to get appointed anything real. I'm never going to actually be. Maybe one day I'll get inside the room. They'll whatever I say will go in one ear, out the other. Why? Because Wall Street would revolt. And these politicians listen to Wall Street, Warren. They don't listen to grassroots people. They don't listen to you. They listen to the bourgeoisie. They listen to the oligarchy. This is a lesson, I think. Not that I'm seeing Warren vibes here, but I think this is a lesson for AOC. I think this is a lesson for Rashida Tlaib. I think it's a lesson for Ilhan Omar. I think it's a lesson for Pramila Jayapal, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman. And it's easy for YouTube hosts to say this. I think AOC is right when she says, you think it's corrupt? You have no idea until you get there. You think there's pressures on you to sell out? Wait till you get there. It is no joke. So I don't want to minimize the pressures these people are up against. But what I want to say is, don't think if you keep playing ball with, let's say, Nancy Pelosi, if you keep being diplomatic, if you refuse to speak out against her, if you make concessions where you won't primary or support a primary against a certain Democratic incumbent because Pelosi and the leadership has asked you not to. Don't think if you don't speak out or if you do give them your vote on X, Y, and Z legislation because they give you the subtle or direct inclination that if you go my way on this, I'll let Medicare for All have a floor vote or something like this. Once you start making these mini compromises, because to be clear, you do have to compromise as an elected official, even a progressive one. You do have to compromise. Compromise isn't a dirty word, but there's compromising strategically, and then there's selling your soul for nothing. Don't think, like Elizabeth Warren, that if you start making these mini deals with the devil, if you start basically selling, and when I say selling your soul, it is selling your soul. It was a clear choice in 2016. Bernie, Hillary. She sat it out. It's a clear choice when you clearly have no way of winning. When you've come in third place in New Hampshire, which is the backyard of Massachusetts, that you stay in, you are selling your soul. You know full well that Biden, Obama, the entire neoliberal plutocracy wants you to stay in because your votes keep Bernie from winning these states. That's what happened in many of the Super Tuesday states. So she made a deliberate decision thinking, and I'm sure the New York Times reported that during her campaign, in addition to the selfies with everyone, she was going around the country drinking hot tea with a who's who of the Democratic Party establishment on the local level and on the state level. But the thing is, when you do that, when you make decisions, either not endorsing or endorsing certain things, thinking that they will finally pay you back later, what you're not realizing is it doesn't even matter if they pay you back later. Whoever told you being inside the room is better than being outside the room is wrong. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.